Hi, my name's Lori, and I'm going to be doing my PowerPoint on chronic bronchitis. Chronic bronchitis is a disease process which falls under the category of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It is a cough that occurs every day and causes inflammation of the airways and causes overproduction of mucus within the lungs. And the person with chronic bronchitis is susceptible to frequent viral and bacterial infections. One of the primary causes of chronic bronchitis is smoking. There are other things that could cause chronic bronchitis, some of which are working in an environment where there's a lot of pollution, a lot of fumes, such as something painters would come in contact with, coal miners, that sort of thing. Treatment for chronic bronchitis can include a bronchodilator, steroids, oxygen therapy, smoking cessation, and avoiding airborne bronchial irritants. Search terms that I used with when I was looking up chronic bronchitis, chronic bronchitis, living with chronic bronchitis, and also support groups for chronic bronchitis. What I was hoping to find with this information was something that the newly diagnosed patient would want to look for. I wanted to look for how others manage their day-to-day life, how they cope with their diagnosis. I was hoping to find information about support groups, not only for the patient but for their family and loved ones as well. I was also looking for a more detailed explanation about what exactly is chronic bronchitis, how does it differ from other disorders of the lungs. And what I found was weren't many support groups or sites that were exclusively devoted towards chronic bronchitis. I found more things that fell under that broader search term of COPD. So that's what I had to do, was I had to include COPD into my search terms to find more information, in which I did find a lot more information when I did that. Site one that I have here is one called COPD Emphysema and Support Group, which was found on the DailyStrength.org website. Daily Strength is actually a website that offers links to many support groups for a myriad of illnesses. This support group I found was, like I said before, was for COPD and emphysema. On there I found many people that were discussing and having dialogues about losing their jobs, frustrations with losing their jobs, how how they don't understand how they got chronic bronchitis in the first place. They never smoked. Why did I get this this illness? There were also people on there that expressed regret for smoking, not only smoking cigarettes, smoking marijuana, smoking cigars, smoking other illicit drugs, but primarily it was cigarettes and marijuana. And regret that they had done this to themselves. I found also on there, I found people with chronic bronchitis that were providing others with spiritual guidance. They were offering suggestions of and examples of mindfulness and meditation, and that sort of finding that inner peace to help with the emotional stress and frustration of this disorder. There were also people on there that were asking questions about, I lost my job, I need to apply for disability, but I don't know how to go about it. And others replying, this is how you go about, these are the steps you need to take to apply for disability or for SSI or so on and so forth. There were also others that were posting questions and answers about new medications. My doctor wants to start me on this medication. Has anyone else tried it? And what were your results? And There were, posts on, my doctor says, this surgical intervention could work for me. Has anyone out there had it? What do you think? And there was a lot of reply, both positive and negative in that respect. I also found on this particular support group site, I found anger, frustration. I found understanding of what the other people are going through naturally, because they've been through the same process. Compassion. There was a lot of faith, discussion, and there was a lot of acceptance that this is what is wrong with me, and these are the steps I need to take to make myself feel better, which I found it all was very interesting. The next site that I went to was it was a YouTube search, actually, and that YouTube search was that I wanted to find a more informative video on chronic bronchitis, one that mainly focused on chronic bronchitis. Now the one I have in the slide here is entitled Chronic Bronchitis, and it does give some comparison between chronic bronchitis and emphysema, but for the most part it does do a very good explanation of chronic bronchitis, the pathophysiology of it, which I thought was very interesting. It may be a little more technical for some people, but I think they do a good job of explaining what it is and how it comes about and how your body reacts to chronic bronchitis. The third site that I looked at was called mycopteam.com, and mycopteam is more like a social media website, kind of like Facebook. I found on this website there's people who do daily posts. Hi, this is so and so. How's your day going? This is what's going on with just like Facebook, and people responding to those other members. There were a total of, there were well over 58,000 members on this site who have some sort of disease that falls under the category of COPD. There were people there with chronic bronchitis, others with emphysema, that sort of thing. They were either, they themselves had either have some sort of COPD related illness, or they are the spouse or caregiver of someone that does. What I liked about this site is the socialization that was going on. And that you could go into a group by, this is by treatment even. I mean, it broke it down into so many little groups. You could go in just one major COPD. You could break it out by, I have emphysema, I have chronic bronchitis, and I have diabetes, and I have PVD. And you could just dwindle it down into such smaller groups to make it a more intimate socialization, or you could broaden it, and you could just go under the the COPD generalization and go. You could talk to other people from around the world, to a national level or to a local level, which I thought was really, really interesting. So please check out that link. I thought that was a great link. Similarities between the web quests and the readings. I thought this from the last 2 weeks, the similarities that I found were the feelings of being overwhelmed and lost in initial diagnosis. I read in some of the blogs and I read in the text, that sense of being looked at like you're a person that has completely changed. You're a stranger to those that you're closest to, and you're being treated sometimes more like a child than an adult who has the strength and the understanding and the tenacity to persevere with this disorder. I found similar examples in the readings and the web quests, as well as with the interview with Kelly, about how mentioning going through the stages of death and dying as described by Kubler-Ross. Differences. differences in the readings. Actually, I didn't find a whole lot of differences, to tell you the truth. If I had to search for any differences between the sites and the videos, the readings, that was totally by me. That was the differences in the information in the sources that I found. Was I wanted to add at least one video that was an information video, and that was the one I had posted from YouTube. That was the the uh, information video on chronic bronchitis. Other than that, I really didn't find that many differences. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, I didn't. So moving on, additional information. The only additional information I would like to share is when doing that web quest or search for chronic illness, like the one I did with chronic bronchitis, and I guess you could even do it with mood disorders. Um, as an example, would be to broaden your search to the generalized illness. In my case, it was with the COPD that chronic bronchitis falls under. Like I had said, when doing that, I found a lot more information doing that than I did focusing on that specific illness of chronic bronchitis. Also, I think, I don't know, this may sound kind of sappy, but when reviewing some of the blogs and reading some of the stories of some of the people that shared their stories and their frustrations, I just found it, some of it can be incredibly heartbreaking and moving. And that's it. Thanks.